Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Joel White. I'm a filmmaker, an actor, and a storyteller, and I'm here to talk about The Acolyte and how Lucasfilm and Disney somehow actually made a good business decision and canceled the show. I can't believe it. As crazy as it sounds, I thought for sure that they were just gonna stick it to all the fans and everybody and just do a second season, even though they had an over-bloated budget and they produced something that didn't even look close to the budget that they were given. It's remarkable, you know. And so I thought, like, they're just gonna make another season. They don't care what we think. They don't care about the fact that the season finale was the lowest viewed season finale out of any Star Wars live action show in history. It's like they're just gonna do it. They're just because they want to. But somehow, somewhere, some way, someone decided, nope, that's actually not a good thing. That's a bad business decision, so they canceled it. Now, this news is coming from Deadline and Variety and a host of other sources, so I don't know if there's like an official word strictly from Lucasfilm or Disney yet, but these publications are pretty much on point when it comes to industry news, and if anything changes, obviously we'll know soon. But I'm encouraged, and I feel pretty secure that if they're reporting it, it's been officially canceled. I know that a handful of people like the show, and I'm not trying to be mean if you did. Okay, you're welcome here. You're welcome on this channel. Everyone's welcome, and you're welcome to discuss things nicely in the comments, okay? No attacking people. But yeah, I mean, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I'm not a fan. I think it totally just destroys the lore of Star Wars. I think it takes the joy out of it. I think it totally corrupts the morality, and it just paints good as evil and evil as good, and I think that's a evil thing to do. I think that's a bad thing to do, especially when Star Wars is generally made for kids. Anyone can love it of all ages. I love Star Wars, okay? I'm not saying you can't love Star Wars, but generally this is like family fun entertainment. Acolyte was anything but that. It was dark and gross and weird and incomprehensible plot lines and characters and story. Like, the characters are so poorly written. The dialogue was so cringy. You know all this. So I don't mean to dwell on all that, but I did want to read a couple of things from these articles. So this is from Deadline. It says, The Acolyte will not continue, with Lucasfilm opting not to proceed with a second season of the Star Wars offshoot starring Amanda Stenberg, sources tell Deadline. The news is not entirely surprising. The Acolyte did okay with critics, with 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is absurd, but divided Star Wars fans, which was reflected in its overall viewership. Okay, listen. I don't know what your viewpoint is on critics and reviews and fans and review bombing, but 78% from critics on this show is outrageous. And it was higher than that when the first couple episodes came out. Absolutely absurd. Like, that's higher than some of the best movies in the franchise. So it's just, you know, people are getting paid off. And if you don't think that, if you think that's a conspiracy, it's like, what, people can be paid off in other industries, but they can't in the entertainment industry? Like, think what you want to think, but, you know, I'm not calling out any specific journalists or articles. I'm just saying, in general, there's probably some foul play going on here. And I'm sorry if that shatters your image of Disney, but they do a lot of shady stuff, and it's been proven if you've been paying attention to the news. So then as I get down into the article here, it's talking about some of the more successful things like Mandalorian, Grogu. And apparently it says Ahsoka, the company series that preceded The Acolyte, has been renewed for a second season, which, oh gosh, I mean, fair is fair. Ahsoka was definitely better than The Acolyte, but Ahsoka was not very good in my opinion either. My favorite characters were Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, and they weren't even into that much, and they didn't even explain who they were really. And I don't know what's going to happen in season 2, whatever. It says The Acolyte was a mystery thriller that took viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic. I don't know why people keep saying things like that. Crazy stuff would happen in that show. You'd make a comment online and then people were like, it's almost like it's a mystery, huh? And then like the next thing would happen and it was super predictable, or it wouldn't make it sense at all throughout the whole show. It was like, it's not a mystery, it's just horribly written. And the things that were supposed to be a mystery, like the stranger, the identity of the Sith, it was like, it was obvious that it was the apothecary guy, Chimere. It really wasn't a mystery. Like, people are funny, but I was like, I don't agree with you. I just think it's bad writing. I don't think bad writing equates to being a mystery. I think that's a cop-out. So this is coming from Variety. Lucasfilm has elected not to continue with the Star Wars Disney Plus series following its first season, which depicted the rise of the Sith roughly 100 years before the events of Star Wars The Phantom Menace. The news comes at once as a shock given how much of the Season 1 finale ended on a cliffhanger and teased several plot lines for Season 2, and not much of a surprise given the wildly opposing reception from fans and the less than robust viewership that appeared to drop off after the series premiere in June. It goes on to say, some critics and fans love how the show challenged the traditional perception of the Jedi as infallible and wholly virtuous as embodied by the emotionally self-serving choices made by Jedi Master Saul, who was responsible for removing Usher from her family and causing her separation from her sister. Like, who writes stuff like this, man? It's just like, I guess it's your opinion. Maybe this person watched the show, maybe they were just told what other people were saying about the show, but it's like, as embodied by the emotionally self-serving choices by Jedi Master Saul, he was like probably the only actual good character with any true sense of morality in the entire show. He was actually a caring person, and the way that these people perceive him as helping somebody, even though he didn't do it well, and even though he wanted to admit his mistakes and he ended up doing that, they still painted him as this horrible person who was self-serving, selfish. And it's like, no, he wasn't. Yeah, he didn't do things perfectly, but he was the only person that actually cared for the protagonists of this show. Garbage. Continuing, he says, other fans, however, felt those creative choices were antithetical to the good versus evil nature of Star Wars storytelling, which it definitely was, and strongly objected to the show's expansion of the mythology of the Force. It's not that you were expanding on the mythology of the Force, it's because you were fundamentally changing it from the Force to the thread, and basically presenting it as the thread is actually the proper way to look at the Force, and the Jedi have it wrong. So you're not really expanding on it. You're just making a mess of the Force, and the creators of the show are just trying to make it seem as if they have a better understanding of what the Force is and what it should be. Oh my gosh, this part. Oh, this will like make your brain hurt. It says the Acolyte was also review bombed, an insidious practice. Gosh, and sorry, it's hard to read this. It's okay. The Acolyte was review bombed, an insidious practice most often employed as a form of digital protest against inclusive casts centered around actors of color and LGBTQ characters, like Ocean May's mothers, played by Joni Turner-Smith and Margarita Levieva. Like, sources, please. Prove that, please. Like, what is this terrible hogwash? Like, how does this person have a degree? Like, did they get a degree in journalism or was it nepotism? How did they get a job at Variety, writing about like industry news? Like, there's no evidence, there's no case studies, and there's no examples. They try to make it seem like they know what they're talking about by continuing. They say the 2017 film Star Wars The Last Jedi was an early recipient of this kind of trolling. Again, proof. Just because there's a lot of negative reviews doesn't strictly mean review bombing. And here's the thing, I'm not going to totally disagree and say that there weren't bots out there putting a bunch of negative reviews. That might be the case. And I don't agree with that, okay? But I do believe letting people's voices being heard. And if the majority don't like it, that should be totally acceptable, even if you love something. It's not fun. I have things that I like that plenty of people hate. And I'm just like, man, I wish you guys liked this, but that's the way it is. You know, like, you have to live in reality. So yeah, I don't agree with using bots to try and mess with numbers. But here's the thing, even if there were no bots used for this show, it would still be outrageously negative in the reviews because it's a horrible show. It doesn't take that much to actually sit there objectively and listen. I don't revel in saying this. I'm a Star Wars fan. I want Star Wars shows and movies to be great. I want them to be good. I want them to have great stories with good morals, things that kids can look up to, like things that we can talk about and dissect, and not just creepy, weird stuff. And so if you're gonna just say that just because people don't like a show that you're gonna like call them all these horrible things and just say things like they don't like diverse casts or LGBTQ casts because they don't like a show, like that is horrible. Like that like, how dare you say that? You don't know who these people are. Now listen, there's all kinds of weird people on the internet. There's all kinds of like, yeah, you could probably find some people like that for sure. But just to make a blanket statement about all the people in general who don't like the show as having that kind of character or demeanor or attitude, that's atrocious. That's embarrassing. Like, bro, like I don't understand. Like that, if I was a professor of English and someone wrote me something like that, I'd be like, listen, I'll give you another shot, but you better cite some sources, or you, like, this ain't gonna fly. Like, it's not gonna work here. Like, it's just crazy. It's crazy. Like, listen, and I understand that you can have an opinion, but you should clarify, like, as an author, as a writer, you know, if I was writing this and I wanted to make a statement similar to that, I would probably said something very close to that, but say, like, but that is my opinion, or, you know, I'm looking into the details now to see if there's studies or whatever. But see, people don't want to take the time to do that, and people don't want to make it seem like they're not confident or that they don't know what they're talking about. It's like, I get that. But at the same time, it's so unethical to me for you to write things like that. You know, sorry, this whole video was supposed to be really mainly, and it is, about the cancellation of Acolyte Season 2. But I'm getting so tired of Lucasfilm, of places like Variety, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, whoever else, just coping, just trying to make excuses, and they just want to blame people that they disagree with and call them names. Like, you better have some evidence to back that up. I think that is so immoral to do. And it just proves that, like, it shows in your writing, your horrible writing for your awful TV shows that most people don't find entertaining. The only people that find it entertaining are the ones that live in your echo chamber, your little bubble. So it obviously it makes sense that when people clash over this stuff, that it seems so, like, intense and ridiculous when it doesn't have to be. It's like, man, just, you can like it. I'll leave you alone. Just, like, but don't call me names. Don't call my friends names. Don't call other fans names just because we don't like it. Don't label us things that we aren't. I think that's just preposterous. That being said, guys, I truly am a positive person. I'm a happy person. I don't want you to think that I'm some rage baiting YouTuber over here. I had to talk about it because everyone's going to be talking about it. And I wanted to bring a perspective to it. Like I said, you are welcome here on this channel if you enjoy The Acolyte, if you like Star Wars in general, if you like movies and books and stories. I'm gonna share my opinion and I'm not gonna water it down. So I don't say these things to offend anybody. I want everybody to be involved and to have fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would sit down with somebody who likes The Acolyte and, you know, maybe not watch The Acolyte with them, but I watch some other Star Wars thing with them. You know, like, what I'm saying? Like, I don't shove people away just because they don't like what I like and I don't like what they like. You know what I'm saying? There's no need for that. It's like, let's find common ground. Let's find the things we do like. Let's find the things we want to talk about. Like, I could talk to you about it if you wanted to. I think Manny Jacinto, however you say his name, who played the Stranger, I think he's a great actor. And with the lines that they gave him, which were rough, I think he actually did a good job. And I found his character to be interesting, and I would be interested in seeing him in more of Star Wars. But the problem for me is I don't really, just because I don't want to see a continuation of that overall story. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I can talk about plus side to things. Like I said, I think the character of Soul was interesting, and I think that actor was also very good. You know, I can find common ground with people, and I want to. So again, please understand, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments. Again, please be civil, as you guys always are, and I so appreciate that. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. That would really help me a lot and really help this channel. I'm really trying to make some progress here, so I always appreciate it. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next video.